Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Breakfast Spelunky. This is our... let's do this. Hey, everyone. This is our third time we're doing this. First time I beat the game 2 weeks ago. Last time I died after 3 minutes, and being the open broadcast system noob I am, I covered the entire screen with my face. I'm learning as I go along. Anyway, it's 10 a.m. here in lovely California. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are. I'm trying to do this in the morning so my friends from Europe can watch. Every now and then a couple of people tune in. I think at least 2 of them are here right now. I was also told by my good friend Nick Sutner, who does the podcast with me, that I should not talk forever. I guess that's the professor thing in me. So I'm going to get to the game right away. Hopefully not die fast like last time. But if I do, last time we filled the hour with Noita. I have options. There are a bunch of new things that came out this week or that are in open or closed beta that I could show, that I think I'm allowed to show. Yeah, let's just get to it. And I'll talk about all that stuff later. And we'll see what happens here. Okay, so... Also, later today, not right now, but right now, so I play this with a Xbox One wireless controller. I really like this controller. I've liked it for a while. But because I'm a crazy person, I ordered myself one of those new Xbox Elite... Oh. OBS says it disconnected. Let's see if that's true. Reconnection successful. I hope you're seeing something right now. Says it reconnected. Hopefully that's true. Let's check this. It looks live. If anyone... Well, and no one's in the chat, so I guess if something was going wrong, you'd let me know. It says... I mean, I see a green light here. Green light's good, right? Green light means everything's working, hopefully. Okay, Alex says it works again. Cool. I don't know what just happened. I mean, I am on a home network. It's Time Warner Cable, which means nothing to people outside the U.S., but if you're inside the U.S., it's most internet service providers in the U.S. are a nightmare. Hasn't happened yet. Let's hope it doesn't happen again. Yeah, Alex says, thought it was my internet. Nope, probably my internet. Probably my internet. Unparalleled Dev says refresh worked for me. Okay, well, as long as OBS is recovering, I'll try to monitor this little green light that actually to me right now says that's running at a stable 3,200 kilobit per second. Hopefully that'll stay that way. I will turn the game audio up a little bit. It was a little bit quiet last week, I think. If it's too loud, let me know, and I'll adjust it accordingly. For now, let's just get this started. And again, hopefully today will be the day where I don't have to beat this game every time, but 3 minutes is a little bit of a letdown. Also, I tend to take extremely unnecessary risks in this game because it's fun, right? I haven't really changed my playstyle a whole lot in the wake of playing this on a stream. Good start. And sometimes I tend to narrate it, what I'm exactly doing. I used to not collect the money because I just basically stole everything from the shopkeeper the first second I had the chance. Turns out that's pretty lethal most of the time, especially if you don't know what you're doing. I'd say I'm pretty competent at this game, but I'd say that that's mostly a function of time. I think that's mostly because I've played it for 1,000 hours plus. I wish this skill transferred readily to other games, but I'm not sure that's true. As one can observe when you watch me play Noita or something like that. yeah, because I'm more of a methodical player. Like, I love the fact that this game relies on dexterity. Like, obviously that's a strong feature, and that's not quote unquote just oh, there's the key. Quote unquote just another roguelike, which nothing wrong with that, obviously, but so also sometimes I realize myself getting extremely greedy. I'm like, oh no, let's let nothing go to waste. I'm gonna drop the key here and take the stone with me because I wouldn't want to lose that. I don't think that's obviously always necessary. So here's the thing I always struggle with. I can buy this, but most of the time the mystery box on average is garbage. So it feels like I'm being baited, right, to just give up the money. But then also, just now I said that I don't really care about money, so I tend to buy it. Okay, that is fantastic. That is legitimately fantastic. The Matic is always good. The Matic is so good that it is a huge mistake, in my opinion, and others I know, to take the shotgun over the Matic in the early game. Right? You definitely want to have that... Whoop. Where's the... No, there's the chest. Mima Sweet says that's how mystery boxes work. Yes. Yeah, it's true, right? I should know better. But that was a good one just now. And again, given that money is not that important to me, like, I'm not playing this for ranking. I may have in the past every now and then, but like, I even tried to do ghost runs and stuff like that, but I don't like that stuff that much. Let's just say that. And I kind of hope... Ugh, I don't like this. I kind of hope that Derek doesn't... Or if there's like a leaderboard that's not... Good job, man. That's not only keyed on... This has bad idea written all over it. Do not like what I'm doing here. That's not keyed on money. Like, I don't think that money is that interesting of a metric in terms of skill. Of course, there are people who would disagree with me. Let's see. Alex says, normally you put the damsel on the altar, right? Yeah, I should have, right? This is a I'd say this is a function of me trying to narrate my experience as I play it. Docky says, I started to lose interest in Spelunky when I was exposed to people who kept talking about micro details and ridiculous optimization. Yeah, I think that stuff is fascinating. It's definitely not me, right? I don't know if Ix is here. He's one of the core community members over there. They love that stuff, right? And again, I think it's fascinating to observe that, but I don't want to get into that deep. Docky says, it made me feel like my playstyle was less valid. Yeah, that's kind of... Wow, I have a whole bunch of opinions on that. Specifically to the case that it's so hard to ignore that, and I get it, but it's a thing that I've... Oh wait, that's a nice snake pit. It's a thing I've practiced over time to not care about what other people think, but oh man, yeah, I get it. Because in all honesty, in my experience, that community is extremely... I mean, that's probably not what you mean right now, but that community is actually really welcoming. But yeah, I was also less interested. Like, when friends of mine whose opinion I did care about a lot were like, "Oh, I'm only gonna farm the ghost," and that kind of stuff, I was like, "Nah, I'm not into this." Fortunately, the game does support any playstyle you like. For example, I never do any of the stuff that most people do, which is... So do I actually need that other Matic? I guess if I need it, I could just use the Matic to get it. I don't ever go to the spaceship. I don't ever go to the... There's various paths you can take in this game. I just never do. It's become extremely formulaic, and normally that's a negative thing, but for me, that's just the ritual. The same thing happened with Dark Souls when I realized I was the only person I knew who wasn't watching streams and reading all the wikis. Same from Docky. Yeah. I I think I realized that through one or two friends of mine who were super into watching all that stuff. And then the only way I could engage with that I thought was interesting was watching AGDQ stuff, like Amazing Game Done Quick, like the speedrunners, because that's hilarious to watch, right? They basically, like, at least the ones that I used to watch that I liked a lot were where they just like eke out like a millisecond every minute just by taking off all their clothes and stuff like that. Again, I like that as an observer. I think it's beautiful that games have that in them. I tend personally not to go that deep on it. And I say this all the while I'm running this Spelunky thing here, right? Spelunky just did that for me in a way that I'm almost scared. Ugh, that was unnecessary. I'm almost scared that Spelunky 2 won't do that for me. Right? I think I've had that thought this morning when I was working out. I was like, man, I hope I have the energy to do this again. Unparalleled Dev says, I played Dark Souls blind before watching any of the speedruns or design deep dives. I think I did too. I think the only thing that I allowed myself during that was talking to friends, or what else happened? Yeah, I think I was basically doing the whole like I was trying to simulate the schoolyard situation, in the sense that I was like, I'm only going to listen to what my friends say. But honestly, these days, I kind of think it doesn't matter as a strong opinion, but like, honestly, whatever works, right? There's so many different ways to engage with the forum, or any forum for that matter, but like especially games. Oh my god, there's so many. Oh no, don't get hit twice. Okay, there's so many cool ways to engage with the forum. Like I used to when I was predominantly playing single player games, I'd say in like the 2000s, it was just like I needed to play the game when everyone else was playing because I wanted to be in the I wanted to have the online conversation, or feel like I was in the moment. But now games, or some games, just live on for so long. Like Spelunky is an obvious example, but so many others, like so many single player games that are basically games that you can, I don't even know if I can call this, I want to say quote unquote complete, right? Because what does that even mean anymore? Like who sent me this? Like I think a year and a half ago, I was talking to Seth Killian, who was once the community manager for Street Fighter 4, went on to work for Riot, etc., etc. He's a big Bloodborne fan. And so I was like, oh, interesting, what's going on in Bloodborne? And he's like, oh man, it's pretty deep. And he started telling me all this lore, and I was like, what is going on? And then he sent me an email that I have yet to reply to from back then, because it was so intimidating in terms of how deep that rabbit hole is. And again, what am I doing here? I have 31 bombs. This is okay. So now I just have to be careful to notice that I do have 31 bombs. So there's no reason to get hit by something like that. All right. This is just would be unnecessary. It's one of those situations where I was like, please don't die with 31 bombs. Where is the... Oh, there. So yeah, let's do the thing that Alex said I forgot last time, which is... Oh no, don't do that. Which is to get the pug on there and get a cape for my efforts. What's going on here? Matron Boy, good morning to you. I'm making lasagna for dinner while I watch. Awesome. I do like a lasagna, but I just had breakfast. ShadowDX says, totally agree. I knew I couldn't devote months and months to play Breath of the Wild, so I did a minimal amount of quests and then went straight to Ganon. I probably put 60 hours into Breath of the Wild. That's another game where I was so curious about speedruns and then just wouldn't allow myself to look at them before I had completed the game. Spelunky rabbit hole's pretty deep, says ShadowDX, and the people who play it casually probably think we're all weirdos. The monkey killed the frog with the gold. Yep. It's true, but honestly, the thing is, so I haven't done it. Whoops. Oh, don't tell me the battery's empty. Now, there we go. If it is, I do have a charging cable right here, which I will get out just in case. So every year in class, I do a Spelunky run just so that... Oh, yep, battery's dead on my controller. How cool is that? Good job. Let's press escape so that this doesn't die. Oh, live shows. You gotta love them. When I used to watch, like, On the Spot or some, like, GameSpot show, and they were, like, everything was always plugged in, and I was like, why are they not using the wireless capabilities of their stuff? I was like, okay, now I get it, right? Like, you start doing this yourself, and you start realizing there's a reason for most things. Emergence, yeah. I watched the Shield-only Breath of the Wild run earlier, pretty wild. So... we don't know when or if we're going to do it, but man, we've seen some wild Breath of the Wild stuff, right? Some like really... okay, I'm clearly messing this up. Let's focus for a second. Some like really, really crazy community stuff where people go so deep on like their anything, right? Like their equipment, how they're decked out, their build. It's like, this isn't Dark Souls. Oh wait, you can. And then because of the physics, right? It's like almost like a comedy generator. Like there's this one video I watched where they just like again did that typical thing where they charge up an item while it's in stasis, and then they trigger an enemy. The enemy is like about to hit them, and then the stasis goes off, and the thing catapults the enemy into infinity, but it leaves their weapon there in the air, like almost like a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner moment. Absolutely amazing. Nima Sweets, regarding leaderboards for daily runs for Spelunky 2, I wish there are instant tournaments like in Zack Age Solitaire, so you can have multiple seeds to compete on. Plus, they could be like the seeds for speed, the ones for money, and so that sounds good. This is game design, right? I don't know if you're a game designer, but if you are, you know that that's basically game design, right? Like here are like 30 different ways we could do this. And then you have to figure out how to rank them in a way because usually you're not going to put in 30 ways. You're going to have to try to do the simplest thing that doesn't break. Sorry, in perfect land, you're going to do the simplest thing that doesn't break. In reality, you're going to do 5 things and 4 of them are going to break. Or all 5 of them are going to break. And then you fix them over time. Because we no longer live in beautiful, beautiful Nintendo land, where things just got made and then never got touched again because it was in a cartridge. I don't even know if I think that land is beautiful. Did I just hear? I thought I just heard the... oh yeah, it's right there. But I also hear the pug. So let's still try. I think it makes sense here in this situation to rescue the pug. Where the hell is the pug? Okay. Pug is above the altar. Okay. Oh, man. This is another thing I've noticed from people who are a lot more professional about their streaming. They use the chat a lot, right? Because they're distracted by thinking through their play process. But that's fine. I'm okay with this. This is good practice because the first few times I tried it, it was a nightmare, and I had no idea how hard this would be. Actually, the first few times I did it was in class. And then I realized, man, it's really, really complicated to narrate while you're playing. It is a decent black market. I generally consider a black market an A+. If there's a jetpack, that box might still contain it, or it might be on the lower floor. I tend to not investigate all the way down there because it's just a waste of time. This is... some people would consider what I'm doing here massive overkill. I'm very cautious. I just prefer to not mess this up. So I remove everything from here, from this level, and then I trigger the shopkeepers. But now, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that first. That's not really... So, do I have the... I don't have the gloves. So I'm not going to throw it. What does it say? Better cautious than shotgun. Yep. Totally awesome when the black market spawns directly underneath the altar. It says Shadow DX64. Yep. Right, so I just trick them into... Trick them. Let's see what's in here. Nope. No such luck. Oh boy. So this is the part where people will come to realize that I do not play this necessarily for the narrative experience. Because I do not... The helping hand is a liability. Let me just make sure that that floor is clear. Looks clear. Oh, that's not clear. What do you know? Good job, everyone. Oh, stuck him. Okay. This is looking good. And then... Oh, sorry, dude. I'm sorry, my buddy. But you can't go where I'm going. Let's see if there's anything worthwhile down there. Not really, right? So I have 54 bombs. Absolutely unnecessary to take risks here. I'm just gonna cascade bomb my way out of this. Oh! That was a little bit too close. Just a little bit too close. Mima Sweets, what's your opinion in scouting runs? Knowing what's where before you do your item daily. I don't really have an opinion on it. I just don't do it because I don't... Not saying I don't have time is wrong. I'd rather do something else with my time. I would probably do that if I was still training to beat the game for the first time. Maybe. I think it's fine. I think you're rarely going to hear me say something like, oh boy, that's not the real way to play it, right? Because I think all of that is just straight up not true. There's no such thing as the real way to play anything. Or the real way to do anything for that matter. The hell is going... Oh, this looks hilarious. It's like he's wearing... That's really mean. You're wearing one of your brothers as a hat. Okay, so one thing I just noticed is that I do not have the spiky boots yet, which okay, the spiky boots are not a deal breaker. Glue is way more important for me. But I just noticed it because if you have the spiky boots, those guys die right away. Docky says, I've never been to Hell or any of the other exits. I haven't played Spelunky in more than a year, and I dread trying to build the skill to see anything special. So I feel the same way about every other game. Because I've done the work here already. And I'm not going to lie, it's work, right? Like, this is not just... I mean, I've worked it. I've worked to get to where I am in this game. And now it's become second nature to the point where it's just like almost like the fun that you might experience. Oh, let's be careful here. Riding a bike, I guess, maybe is the equivalent. I don't know if that's true. Let's not be stupid here. I don't like what's happening here, so that's always a little bit dangerous. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's so hard to say, right? Because, like, again, there was once a time... Oh, boy. Okay, this is another hilarious little thing. So, with if the shopkeeper gets hit by spikes like that, dude's just going to hang out. Like, he's going to do absolutely nothing, right? Bye. I don't know. It's like everything else, right? I think, like, where do you put your time? I remember a couple years ago, and I mentioned this a lot, right? Where I was like frustrated about my lack of progress on a game prototype I was working on. And my friend Scott at the time said, like, we were always hanging out, and I was like, oh yeah, this game, that game, and this, like, this mechanic, that mechanic. And he was like, if you played half as many games as you do, you would be making 10 games a year. And that statement to this day just rings awfully true to me. It turns out I like game design a lot. I like game analysis a lot more. Like, I like doing this right now more than trying 5 different versions of a mechanic that I came up with. And that's just me. That might change again. I don't know. Like, I was a graphics researcher for a really long time, and now I'm not that anymore, and I'm so happy. Like, then I was an AI researcher for a while, and I liked that for a while, and now I don't do that a whole lot anymore, although I do still have a PhD student. Oh boy. I don't like this. I do not like this situation at all. Because I can't really see what's happening over there. Oh boy, let's get the hell out of here. So it's kind of hard to trigger that enemy. I'm gonna try to, okay, this might work or not, I don't know. Okay, that at least triggered our friend. Good, that worked. Where am I? I'm on 3-1. Am I supposed to die here somewhere? Like, where's the... I didn't know that the thing could ever be in 4-1. Wait, how did that not... Did I miss... Am I not paying attention and I missed the Moai head? Docky says it's like riding a bike down a mountainside, but the mountain is okay now. Boy, do I have a game for you. Lonely Mountain Downhill. It's a recent physics-based BMX game or biking game that is absolutely fantastic. Guys, please tell me. So, okay, normally if I actually do miss the Moai head, then and can't make it to hell, I actually most of the time kill myself. Shadow DX, I'll get to this in a second. Shadow DX says, were you an AI researcher or were you an AI researcher in scare quotes? I think the second you publish a paper at AAAI or IJCAI, I think they consider you to be a person who does AI. I could link you to an article that I can show you after I've done my run where they interviewed 17 experts. But the funny thing is that the most people in that list are actually experts, like old school AI people, and for some reason I'm in there on what we consider to be the future of AI. I am definitely more of a skeptic. Oh, there we go. There's the Moai head. I love technology. I do not love where most technologists are taking technology. I'm one of those people who thinks that computer scientists need to take more responsibility for what they're doing and not abdicate responsibility to other people. Let's just say it like that. I was implying you're an artificial intelligence who does read that. Aren't we all? Docky says, I worked with AI researchers as a game designer for a couple of years. It was weird and made me very skeptical. Yeah, because here's the truth of that, as far as I know. And keep in mind, the thing I'll say about this is that a lot of these people are close friends of mine and are amazing humans. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of them are super nice. Here's the part where I'm going to like totally out myself again. Shadow DX, can you remind me again what... Because I get these things confused. Like Occam's Razor, Rocco's Basilisk. Like, I know that all these things are like amazing philosophical things. I know what Rocco's Basilisk is, but right now I'm going to mess it up. So if you can remind me, I'll give you my opinion on it. But yeah, I've written papers about stuff. Let's just say stuff. I gotta die here anyway. So my only goal here in this level normally is what I'm gonna do. Wait, I could probably get to that easier from the other side. Is to get the pug, to grab the pug, save the pug, and then get the hell out of here. Do I not have the climb? I don't even have the climbing gloves. Okay, a lot of this could go bad because I'm considering, because I think I have items that I don't. So I have to, here's a big mistake that you can do. You can like accidentally go into there. I need to kill myself here. Daki says, I was grateful for the ethics talks in AI, but so many engineers were like, but ethics makes it hard to make graphs that go up. Yeah, have you ever watched The Wire? Like I'm watching The Wire right now for the first time in my life, and there's without spoiling too much, there's a whole like narrative element about how gaming the stats is a weirdo thing to do, and some people are for it and some people are against it. I'm wildly against it, right? I'm a person who had an amazingly hard time with various processes along those lines because I just don't fit the bill, and I wasn't willing to play the game because I thought the game was dumb. These are always problems, right? These are problems that a lot of people have with anything in society, where people who are good at the game will then explain to you, well, you didn't play the game. And then even you yourself will explain to yourself, oh, damn, I guess I should get better at the game. No, sometimes you shouldn't. Sometimes you should just go play a different game, honestly. Which is what I'm doing right now. Like and I mean not in the literal sense. Like I just decided at some point, oops. Ooh, I gotta stick that guy, right? Let's do that. See, normally I think I could throw this at him, but I really don't want to mess this up right now. It's going too well. So let's instead find an out over here. Then I will casually stick him with a grenade, with a bomb, like that. Get his shotgun. That looked too easy. So the thing I will say though, right, is I sound like I'm negative. There are a lot of people in AI who are very aware of the ethics debate. It's just that sometimes they're not very skilled at it, and they're not very knowledgeable about it either, because some people truly believe that computer scientists shouldn't be worried about this because it hinders progress. Everything I say is conjecture and hypothesis. I think that that's largely to blame for where we are right now. If one thinks that the current technology landscape is problematic, I think a lot of people, including myself, believe that to be true. But again, it's hard to say something definitive about it because who knows what the alternative is? Ooh, the jetpack. I do love the jetpack. Right, I'm sure that Nope, sorry, not doing it that way. Let's just shoot into that dude. I'm sure that every time and every culture had its moment. Why am I not collecting blood? I'm actually not using the cup of Kali at all. Has had their quote-unquote technology moments, right? Where it was like doubtful whether what they were doing was the right, quote-unquote, the right path. I just don't like when people are like, when hubris exposes its ugly head and says something like, well, how dare you question this even, right? And there are a lot of people in that field, due to their current successes, that are unwilling to engage with the more problematic aspects of their chosen profession. And now I'll talk about Spelunky again. This is also me in a nutshell. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I'm sorry. Oh man, I don't have... Let's not be stupid here. Some of this disgruntledness of mine is probably also projection, in the sense that I remember the times when I was wholly optimistic about almost everything. And I am for the most part to this day, but. But, right? It's a big but in that statement. Okay, let's get out of here. Nothing is easy on ice without spike shoes. It's true. Okay, so as a reminder... Ooh, I don't like this. Let's get rid of that. Again, this is the point where dying with 60 bombs would be tremendously stupid. If you hear a baby screaming in the background, I think I hear it because I have the gain cranked up pretty high on this mic. Yeah, that's my son. It's my today 6-week-old son with his mother, who is a saint for letting me do this. Okay, probably the best thing to quote-unquote waste a lot of bombs on this. You know, I'm just gonna throw a couple bombs in there and space them out. There we go. That wasn't that many. Okay, so now let's do that. Oh, come on, Anubis. Get up there. Parenthood makes every game into Yoshi's Island. Oh, man. I'm actually a little bit ashamed to admit that to this day, I've never finished that. I think I've started that game so many times. So many times. Like, I have a Super NT that I'm looking at right now. And it's, of course, available now also on the Switch Super Nintendo service. Watch the crush block. Got it. So, yeah, that game... Oh, man, this is starting to turn into... I mean, I still don't have... Let's kill that guy. I still don't have the spiky boots, but also I don't care anymore, so let's just get out of here. Yeah, Yoshi's Island is a classic. Unparalleled level design, boss fights in Yoshi's Island are top notch. Yeah, I think I got like over halfway through, right? Like where you have like boss fights in the belly of creatures and stuff like that. I hear people calling that game... Ah, that was dumb. Calling that game divisive. Like, oh, Yoshi's Island was not that great. I'm like, are you kidding me? Uh-oh. So again, this is the moment where having the spike boots would actually go a long way. I don't like any of this. Uh-oh. Okay, this is a not great situation that I've just put myself in. Okay, we're gonna get rid of that thing. And then we're gonna just try to avoid this. There's a crush block. I cannot believe how bad a job I am doing here right now again. Embrace the chaos. Where am I? 2 health and a gazillion dollars and 45 bombs? Come on. Okay, let's not be stupid. Let's just farm some blood here. Yay! I didn't know that was possible. What am I doing on time? 1:53. Okay. Oh, right, the vomit. Why am I doing this stupid thing here right now? I could just be getting under that dude and getting the vomit. So let's let Yeah, but also I'm at 208. I kind of don't want to mess this up right now. Oh, I messed that. I already did mess it up. Okay, okay. Backpedal, backpedal. Where's the exit? Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Okay. Now, okay, so I think this may have happened almost in the same way the last time. Like I managed to talk so much that I got to a point where this happened. Uh-oh. Oh god. What did I just get hit by? I don't even... Okay. I would have to watch that again. Can someone explain to me? Because I know for a fact... Let's turn down the audio a little bit. I know for a fact that that lava flow doesn't hit me, right? I do not... Cursed. I don't know how I died. A mummy landed on your head. Is that true? I mean, I've definitely got killed by a mammoth falling on me, which is maybe flies, I think. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. No, you're right, Shadow DX. I think curse is the word for when the flies kill you. Man, that's unfortunate. That was actually a pretty solid run. That was actually a pretty solid run. But yeah, no, sorry. Mummy's curse, right? Sometimes the deaths are funnier than others. I think this one was pretty good as far as funny deaths go, but I would have liked to not die that way. I think that there were better ways that I could have handled that. That's a little bit unfortunate, but oh well. Oh well. This is still a million times better than die. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Go away. Okay. This is still a million times... Okay, I don't know why I keep on popping that stuff up. Let's get this out of here. This is still a million times better than what happened last week, which is that I just died by falling on spikes after 3 minutes. Alex says, maybe I'll watch the replay later. Unparalleled Dev, full disclosure, I've never been past the jungle. What can I say? There have been times where I have not been past the jungle. Let's stop this. Let's briefly go to my desktop scene, where I might still discuss a couple of things before I end the stream, or play another game. We'll see. Yeah, Unparalleled Dev, it doesn't matter, right? Because the cool thing is, if you can commit to like playing it once a day on the daily, you will eventually pass the jungle. If I can do it, I think everyone can, right? I have probably, well, I think, I guess, can I be ageist against myself? Is that okay, or is that implicitly harming other people? I think on various shows 10 years ago, they used to say old man hands once you were like over 40. I'm 49. I mean, I've played video games my entire life, but like honestly, like I'm distracted most of the time. I think it's totally doable. I've gotten so much better, but still get so nervous when nearing into the jungle. Jungle, to be clear, and you may have heard this one before on Parallel Dev, but the jungle is the hardest area, right? The whole design philosophy behind the jungle is that there's a really hard hurdle in the early game, and then everything gets a little bit easier after that. I could find parallels to the way studying at German universities works, that they like filter you out in the first 2 years, and if you pass that, you still have to work, but you're kind of golden. Nima Sweet says, on this run I made it to infect, but lost the Ankh by falling into spikes on 2-3. Classic. Made it to Olmec, but lost by falling into spikes on 2-3. Yeah, that's unfortunate. As I say, sometimes I just quit then, like, because I'm like, and that's again a function of time, right? I'm just like, that's not the thing that I want to do. Unless I'd probably not do that on the stream. I'd probably still try to beat Olmec. Docky says, roguelike Death Thoughts. Sometimes I think it would be fun to allow other players to play someone else's run and see how they fare. You mean starting from where they died? Because that could be fun. Man, there's so many cool things that could happen with respect to that, right? There's like, I think if people actually put their heads together, you could brainstorm up a list that is like basically 10 different games, right? It's like in grad school, we used to be told like, that's a cool idea, but maybe keep it for the next paper, right? I don't know. Mima Sweet Stocky, would you run this seed yourself? Oh, you guys are talking to each other. I think distance helps. I have not heard that's comforting. Oh, Unparalleled Dev. Yeah, the jungle is just stupidly hard. Like the tiki traps are just going to kill you for a year, I feel, right? It's like until you start getting the timing down, because they're only dangerous the second the spikes come out, but you happen to be next to them a lot, and then you're stupidly scared of them, so that when you're close to them, you tend to constantly mess up, right? So I think once you get over that, they're still scary, to be clear, right? I still die to them all the time. But they get less scary. Alex says it will take time to beat the game. Took me so many deaths, right? Yeah. Unparalleled Dev. I've heard first year physics professors say that from the low difficulty weed out the less devoted. So to that end, right? Less devoted. You never know, right? It's very, very hard to it's hard to be judgmental about that, because there's so many, like when you're in a classroom with 100 people and there's a couple of people who are not getting it or pulling it together, that could have so many reasons, right? So it's sometimes less devoted is like a little bit of a I used to think that too. It's like, oh, if you're less devoted, like I don't care, right? It's not my job to think, like you're all adults. It's not my job as a professor to care about what you should not be doing. But I've come to realize over time that that's just straight up, again, similar to what I said about computer scientists abdicating responsibility. I think that everyone could do a little bit better, and so I'm trying to do a little bit better. And I think people, right? But yes, I do believe that there is merit to a system that tries to explain to younger people, like, and I remember me, I can't project too much, but I remember me at that age, that maybe this is not for them. Right? That maybe there's a better profession, activity, thing you could be doing with your life that is not this thing you're doing right now, that you're maybe not, that's not working for you for whatever reason, right? Docky says, use any tools you have to avoid conflict. Yeah, a step too close. Devoted is often obnoxious and dismissive. Right, yeah. It's true, and it's hard to say that, right? It's like the thing, yeah, it doesn't consider the playfield and established skills, right? It's like the whole thing about like a true gamer, like, and all that like toxic talk, right? It's like who knows what's going on, right? Things are complicated. It's very simple to be reductionist about it. So I try, like, unless obviously there's boundaries, and I try to be careful about the ones that I put up for myself to stay physically and mentally healthy in that environment. But as far as I can go, I do, right? I consider that part of my chosen profession that I enjoy a lot, like a lot. Unparalleled Dev, my friend who's an accountant failed an entire class once said nobody knew the material and wouldn't be fair to pass them along to the next professor. That sounds rough. I mean, in all honesty, if everyone in a class fails a class, there's no universe where that's not on the instructors, right? Like, I can't imagine, right? That sounds almost like, like if you're in a series of bad relationships, and then after like after they're constantly going awry, you're like, oh, it must have. I guess it's always the other person. Like at some point, you have to wake up and realize that maybe some of this is on you, right? That's would be very helpful. So this professor you're talking about sounds kind of like they could do a better job, right? I have the opposite effect right now. Like I have a class in computer graphics where my students are all like almost bordering on an A, right? And I think it's because I took over class materials from others, and they haven't changed the class in a while. And so honestly, it's a little bit too easy. And it's not that people are learning everything, but it's a little bit too easy. Docky says, my friend that can collect every flower type in Animal Crossing has a different set of skills. Yes, right? For sure. And those skills I would like to believe, are applicable to other things that will sustain that person's livelihood, right? And maybe that person is not a bridge, like a bridge engineer, right? Not, coming up with a random profession that's like a thing that takes a while to learn and is a grind to get there often, right? Like, yes, if you can find the entertainment and pleasure in theoretical mathematics, I guess you're golden. I never could. Like, if I didn't find a reasonable application, to this day, I don't quote unquote understand. Maybe someone's gonna love this one. Imaginary numbers, because I never studied. I was never that big time into electronics. I know that I use quaternions. Obviously, I understand that the math is useful, but I don't want to understand it on a theoretical level because I don't care. Like, I'd rather be playing Spelunky or, quite frankly, taking a nap. They were pissed and he quit with respect to the professor. Yeah, shocker. There were kids who were using that school to improve the grades and transfer. Sure. Again, gaming the system is a valid thing to do in a system that kind of doesn't care about your well-being. So, that's like a punk band saying, steal my album. I'll usually say that too. Like, I'm not a huge fan of for-profit education, and here I am teaching at a private university. So I try to make it as good as I can. And the school, I mean, honestly, I'm not saying this because I want to stream now. The school is very good. It's had its problems, but they're coming around. I feel like I'm coming in at a good time. But yeah, the U.S. is weird in that respect. I've only been here since 2008, so I'm still kind of a baby in that respect. Either the instructor is bad or the material is too hard, or both. Yeah, and there's probably still your standard distribution of students in the class, which in my experience, for almost every class I've ever taught, is 10% of people who are like wildly engaged with the topic. Like, they've taken the class because this is their calling. Right, and so they're going to excel at it one way or the other. And then the second type, that is, I'm taking this class. I'm probably not going to do this in the future, but I'm also smart enough to pass it. And then they'll do something, right? And that's a big bulk of the class often. And then there's a bulk that's like has issues, and that's the part where it's like they're not stupid, they're not challenged. They're challenged. There's stuff, right? There's something there that either the material's not clicking with them, or the way it's being taught doesn't work, or they don't enjoy it at all and they have to take the class because they have to, because it's not an elective, that kind of stuff, right? I definitely had classes like that. I did have a kill after hours, so those who wanted to help, but most of the time spent didn't carry, wouldn't have passed everyone like the admins instructing him took the stand. Yeah, that's kind of stuff is still problematic, right? It depends on, like, again, I mentioned Germany as an example. In Germany, education is free. So here, because education is expensive, it's not free in Germany, to be clear, right? Like taxpayers pay for education. Someone's paying for it. The professors are getting paid. It's just that society as a whole, I usually say this, in my opinion, society as a whole decided that education is a public good, right? Which is not the case in the U.S. It's different. But still, someone's paying for it, right? There's a private for-profit college, yeah. But I mean, again, I went from Rutgers, which was a public university, to NYU, which is a private university, to USC, that is also a private university. So, and they have, a board of directors, and therefore it's a business, right? I mean, yes, they're trying to educate people for sure, but they're also trying to do like world-class research, and trying to get funding for that. And that comes with all kinds of other problems. And let's not go there for now. Let's table that topic for another time, because we're coming up against the hour, and I still want to get a couple of things out here. Before I do that, though, let me check something real quick. Okay. So I had this article up last time, right? This was an article by Chris Plant over at Polygon. And Chris is a fellow New Yorker. I say fellow New Yorker as a no longer New Yorker, but in spirit, I still kind of feel like I'm a New Yorker. Like I've only been in California for a little bit over a year. Also, my niece calls it Camerafornia, which I think is absolutely hilarious. So I've been in Camerafornia for a little bit over a year, and it's great. Like I'm running around in shorts right now, and I'm listening to like I was listening to the Waypoint podcast during my workout this morning, and they're like complaining about the fact that it's like 17 degrees Fahrenheit in Chicago, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't want to trade with that. But yeah, fellow New Yorker Chris, he wrote this article. I think the article is fantastic, obviously, because again, this is one of those things. This is like such massive confirmation bias. Like we have a podcast called The Spelunky Show. Like I'm doing the Breakfast Spelunky stream, and now someone writes an article called "Spelunky is the most important game of the decade." Yeah, guess what? I'm gonna be all over that. Um, there are other important games of the decade for sure, right? And they have, I think, the whole thing is like the decade in review, which a lot of people are doing now, and I like that stuff. Like I play a bunch of board games. I watch the Dice Tower. They have like an end of year. Like they have so many top 10 lists. I kind of like them goofing around with top 10 lists. I had a blast doing our end of year show, and I'm already looking forward to doing one again. Because I kind of know what's going to be number one, and anyone who knows me knows exactly what's going to be number one. Docky says, really grateful the Spelunky Show talks about roguelikes with a perspective that considers people and experiences above systems. Yes. So that's purposeful, right? I could give a very long description of how that came to be, but I'd say it's the chemistry of the people who are involved. Because I used to have these debates with Doug Wilson at like IndieCade in like 2010, 2011 about the value or detriment of systems. And he would be like, oh, it's about the humans, blah, blah. I'd be more on the system side. I would explain to him why I consider his games to be systems heavy, even though he said that's not the case. And then it turns out all of these things are lenses, right? All these things are different ways to frame the artifact in an experiential way. And the experience lives above the artifact, in my view, at this point. Because it's nothing, right, without the person playing it. Like, there's another thing I took away from doing AI research. If the result of the research wasn't a better game or a form of insight, I don't care whether an AI can play a game better. And that's being a little bit overly simplistic about it again, because yes, I do think that the stuff that DeepMind is doing in StarCraft and Go, I think that stuff is fascinating from a technical and engineering point of view. And I say engineering because I think it's more engineering than research. But I'm so not interested in doing that myself, right? Like at this point, I think it's just become more and more obvious that I care more about the player experience, and I will use any way possible to facilitate that, right? So games are the things that potentially facilitate that, right? Constraints and systems are potentially the things that facilitate that, but also can hinder it. So because of the dynamic of the show, we just push and pull, right? It's like sometimes someone will go off on I sometimes will go off the deep end and be like when Richard Garfield was on the show, I was like, oh my God, I want to talk about Magic and the crazy interactions that they had. And then it was like, A, you can't do that in an hour. B, no. There's look, we have this person on the show who made Magic the Gathering. Yes, the systems are interesting, and yes, we talked about them with respect to Keyforge, his new game, but the experience of making a thing and interacting with people and how that comes up is, in my opinion, the thing that keeps people around, right? The professors who I enjoyed the most, who are still very engaged in their topic, were engaged in it because it became something that they made into their life. Like it became a part of their fabric, and it was always because of the systems. Because Freudian slip. It was always because of the people. Ed Catmull, the co-founder of Pixar, gave a keynote at SIGGRAPH, I'd say 8 years ago, that was is it the technology or is it the people? And it was it was almost he admitted 7-8 years ago that when they started Pixar that it was for sure the technology, right? Because they had to invent everything from nothing. But over time it became very clear that the things that were most successful for them were the things that were like going really, really intensely into the human experience, right? And if you've watched a Pixar film and you've seen like the intro vignette of Up, or the first 30 minutes of Wall-E, where they just like experiment with like not like nonverbal communication and montage, it's pretty powerful stuff in my opinion, right? I think that stuff is amazingly well done. Anyway, I could keep going on why I think that's a thing. Docky says the Reagan Burns show was rough when he was complaining about terminology, but so much better when he got out of his own way and talked about the way things were enjoyed. Yeah, I kind of feel like we put... It's like, the thing is, someone in these kinds of conversations is going to take the opposite position, right? Like, if they had gone super deep on the human experience, maybe you would have found me going to, well, what about the systems, right? So it's like, there's always a little bit of a push and pull there, and I like it that way because I do not like... This is going to be so self-serving, but I'm going to do it. So this is the pretentious quote on the bottom of my webpage, right? To doubt everything or believe everything are two equally convenient solutions. Both dispense with the necessity of reflection. Henri Poincaré, Science Hypothesis, 1905, which is a very good read that I would strongly recommend everyone pick up if you're interested. I don't believe in simple explanations for complex things, right? And that's slightly stolen from my friend Frank Lance, who was on the last show, which if you haven't listened to that one yet, it was a blast. We had a really good time. So I don't think that it's one thing or the other. I tend to believe that most things are highly multidimensional. There's so many aspects that weave into them. Every now and then you can factor one out to do the to like employ the scientific method to eke out some piece of a hypothesis that you might have. But most of the time it's just impossible, right? And the older I get, the more I realize that I'd rather not do that Sisyphean task of the scientific method anymore. And I'd rather have these things like shows and areas where I can like express my opinions in other ways and label them as hypothesis, right? I'm not trying to say I got the solution to things, because I severely do not. But I do have a lot of hypotheses, and maybe they're provable, maybe they're not. Over time, we just figure that out, right? Hopefully we'll figure that all out together. ShadowDX says he wants roguelites to get off his lawn, although I do think Rouge Light is a clever term, which kind of... Rouge Light was a typo, right? Alex says best show ever. Thanks, Alex. Okay, Alex is also hyper biased because Alex and I started studying computer science together in the fall of 1999, and then went on to be roommates for almost 6 years, and played a bunch of games together. He always destroyed me in Quake 3. Up to that point, I thought I was halfway good at the game, and then it turns out I wasn't. He's also 8 years younger than me. I don't think that would fare as well anymore, because now he also has past 40 and has old man hands. And Alex, we still have to play some Modern Warfare co-op, so I'm still curious about that, although I have heard not good things about it. But yeah, arguing terminology is a losing battle, I think. The best philosophical textbook I have ever read on anything like that, and I've read a bunch, is The Grasshopper, which is a playful romp on the Wittgensteinian definition of what is a game, right? So that is it's a short, nice, very, very entertaining read, and very playful, right? In the sense of being playful. Because, yeah, man, I've known so many people who are like very adamant about defining the term, right? This has gone all through the 90s and 2000s, where people have like, here are definitions of games, and even I looked at that at some point. I was like, oh, I wonder if I can add to this conversation. And it turns out the answer is yes, but it's also why? why, right? And I think it became evidently clear, right, when the things that used to be called pejoratively walking simulators now just own the term. Like, that is one of my favorite things. and the fact that the now like the big popular new release from Hideo Kojima is essentially what they're calling. I haven't played enough to confirm this, but I hear it's a walking simulator, right? And we no longer, or at least we people that I know from games, don't use that in the pejorative sense. It's like, oh no, it's a game that focuses more on exploration and experience and less on trying to make numbers go up, right? I used to argue that doesn't make them less systemically heavy because they still have to do a physics simulation and blah, blah, blah for, I think I said this about Proteus. But again, it's like, don't we have more important things to do? Like, isn't there more important stuff to talk about? And yeah, if you listen to the last podcast with Frank on it, it's like so obvious, right? That it's the humans, right? And that we use technology in order to facilitate that. And Frank used to have, along with his company Area Code, right? The company that released Drop 7, they used to say, or Frank used to say, games with computers in them and not computers with games in them, right? So again, Frank's like, his brain works in myriad interesting ways, right? But it's like a nice way to frame the whole thing. Hard to get out of that when you're in a computer science department, which I still am now because my title has changed again. I'm now an associate professor of cinematic arts and computer science. It's the weirdest combo I can imagine, but here we are. Unparalleled Dev says Richard Feynman has great thoughts on terminology and naming. Interesting. If you can send me a link to that. I've watched a lot of his videos. I've read the lectures on physics. I hear that guy has had problems too. Like, I mean, a lot of these things are like an artifact of the times, but we don't apologize anymore with saying, oh, it was different times. But anyway, Feynman's smart, and I do enjoy his folksy style of lecturing, and lectures on physics is how I learned physics. Docky says I made a walking system that got rejected by the App Store and forced into the book section. Yeah, we could go on a long tangent about the problems of Apple, which I don't deal with at all anymore because I haven't released a game in a decade. Docky says people then called me and the other dev pretentious for putting it in the book category. Oh boy. So you didn't put it there, but yeah, oh man. I mean, again, the whole, like, the thing about the internet and how people, Unparalleled says, Richard Feynman, what's the name of a bird? Thanks. I am going to, as you will probably see right now. I'm opening it right now, but I'm not going to watch it. I am going to queue it up for later. So yeah, it's like, Docky, I'm hearing you. It's like, I just, at some point, I think with the wake of 2014, right? Actually, it's interesting because one of the tabs that I have open here, I'm going to pull up right now. It's not this one. Let's go to pitchfork.com, where I this morning saw that, let's see if I can find it, that the new Anime Neguchi is actually reviewed really positively, right? And it talks about, where is it? Let me zoom in on this a bit. It literally talks about Gamergate, right? Right there. That same year, the reactionary ideology behind Gamergate sent shockwaves through the gaming community and laid out a blueprint for online culture wars. That's what forced me to ignore the internet. That's what made me not care anymore about what's going on, to my great detriment, right? To my great detriment, I kind of like lost track of everything for a while because I had set up a boundary for myself that required me to withdraw because of the nature of my mental state, right? Like I'm what people consider a highly sensitive person. It's true. Okay, yeah, you got it. Ignoring the internet's privileged position. It definitely is. It's also, trust me, over the course of the last 5 to 10 years of living in North America over Europe, over Central Europe, in Germany, I've come to realize that much, much more. Right? It's definitely a learning process. Because if there's one thing, at least from my vantage point, that Central Europeans, in Germany at least, do not get, then it's privilege. Right? Because When you live in a predominantly privileged society, it's very hard for you to see privilege. But now I live in the United States, where it is almost trivially easy to see privilege, right? So I am fully aware of it, and yes, I understand that ignoring it is privilege. But here's the flip side of this. Two things. So you just wrote, I do the same thing with politics news in the UK, but I know I need to try more. So I deeply, deeply regret having disengaged from Gamergate in 2014. Now, people who did engage with it, sometimes to this day, deeply regret having engaged with it. I think I did too little, right? I think it was like, knowing what happened after that, I'm no longer willing to disengage with that. But again, I can do that because I sit in a very, very privileged, very cushy position as a tenured professor at USC, right? And I hopefully I can use that privilege for good, for the most part, right? And not look away, right? Because again, I think what happened here with these guys is that in 2014 they were just like, everyone was like, I can't touch this anymore. Who am I even making this stuff for, right? Because I could go on again. We all know this, right? It's always a small vocal minority, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't take a lot to poison the well. It's painful, but I think more people have experienced this now. And I can tell you for a fact that a lot of people that I know that are in similar situations that I'm in, the very privileged situations, are very much not willing to turn a blind eye. Right. I can tell you this again, how that will impact us and how much of that I and the other friends I have can still do in that respect is still a function of the energy levels I have, right? Because I am a highly sensitive person. I get overwhelmed easily. It took me many, many years of going to GDC to realize that the reason I have a headache in the evening is because I can't actually be around people that long. And I just thought I was tired. So I try to be better, right? But that can't come at the cost of my health, because now I also have a 6-week-old kid to look out after. Daki says I was able to use my position and awareness to speak up for accessibility and representation in the games I worked on. Yeah, so more power to you, right? Godspeed. Like, I truly believe that that's the way to go. My way is to engage with my students, like when the recent thing happened around Night in the Woods and the La Coloca story, we were advised not to necessarily talk to the students about this because it can bring up all kinds of trauma. But I decided against that in my small 15-person design class, and I think it was for the better, right? So I try to raise awareness. I try to help people through things. I try to be available. That's one of the best things I feel I can do. And I feel that it's, at least at this point, I feel it's more effective in one-on-ones, because I don't understand how this works on a broader level just yet. Because I'm only, we're 1 year into this podcast. I'm 3 weeks into this stream. It's a learning experience for sure. Daki says, learning to take care of yourself is important if you want to help others too. I learned that the hard way for sure. Honestly, I had good friends, right? Unparalleled Dev says, secure your own oxygen mask before helping others. I fell into that same problem that everyone, or a lot of people I know fell into that are in my generation, right? Like, I'm core Gen X. We thought we were indestructible. Again, such hubris, right? And it turns out it's not, shocker, that's not true. And it took me all the way to my 40s to come to terms with that. And a lot of friends, I wouldn't call staging an intervention, but at some point really pointing out that I'm not doing myself and anyone else a favor, right? By not ever taking a break. And so I got better at that. I have since have a pretty regular practice of meditation and therapy. I eat healthier. I sleep a lot less now because of a kid, but that's different, right? So and it makes me a lot more available to everyone, and it feels good. I feel like that's what it was like before 2014, right? Before 2014, I still had that energy, but that just like knocked the wind out of my sails in a way that I could not anticipate before it happened. So I'm happy that Anamanaguchi is back. I'm happy that a lot of people are back who like left back then. I'm after 5 years of taking a break, I'm finally back on the judging and jurying for the Independent Games Festival, and I am loving it. And it's reminding me of why I love these communities so much, right? Because the amount of creativity that I see and people helping other people is amazing, and I'll always try to be a force for good in that respect, alongside all the problems that come along with awards shows, because there's no such thing as an awards show without a problem. Let's see. I'm going to go over these other tabs super fast, and then I'm going to sign off for today because I have to attend to my little boy. I've been playing some Hearthstone Battlegrounds. This went into open beta on Tuesday. It's Hearthstone's version of it's Hearthstone's version of auto chess, but it's not it's different because it uses Hearthstone cards, and it has some of the trappings of it, and it is a 8-player free-for-all, but it's different. It's so different in a lot of ways, and if you're into that, I recommend trying it out because it's free for just downloading Hearthstone. I got into the closed beta of Legends of Runeterra. Someone aptly called this something between Magic and Hearthstone, and I think that's a really good description. It's less complicated than Magic and more complicated or deep or whatever you want to call that than Hearthstone. And I'm pretty sure that my friend and amazing developer and former Wizards of the Coast employee, Paul Sotosanti, is working on this. And I hope to have him on the show in the future to talk about their design philosophy behind Legends of Runeterra, because it is great. I'm not even going to apologize for liking Star Wars. It's great. And Werner Herzog is in the first, and also to me it sounds so pretentious to call him, like I'm half German, right? To use anyway, Herzog is in this. It's good. And I think with that, I'll just go back to this tab and say, well, let's still read the stuff here. Jonathan Blow, Techniques for Dealing with the Lack of Motivation, Malaise, Depression. It's a must-watch. I don't think I've seen that one. I'll say right here, I agree with a lot of stuff that Jonathan Blow says, and I disagree with a lot of stuff that Jonathan Blow says. I think it's probably what everyone can say about these things, right? A mega smart dude, working on his own programming language. The Braid is amazing. The Witness is amazing, right? Those games are fantastic. Every now and then the internet does something to him and others where they just feel that they have a strong it's important to scream into it. I wish more people didn't do that, honestly. But oh well, right? As long as a person's a net positive overall, I still think that applies. So Docky said, I'm hard when the same guy has plenty of negative stuff against others. Yeah, that's what I mean, right? It's really unnecessary, I think, for people to like do that. It's not constructive. It's not helpful. No one's getting better from it, right? I can't imagine that the person spewing out the toxicity and negativity is getting better from it, right? I just cannot imagine that. Unparalleled Dev says, never met a man so ignorant that I couldn't learn something from him. That's true for sure, but there's a big but there, right? I would say I wouldn't support the statement that that some levels of negativity that are actually harmful are justified by some intelligence. I think that's why we are where we are with tech and privacy and people's ability to subvert tech for nefarious reasons, right? That stuff's not okay, I think. Like, and people, it's okay to point out that that stuff is not okay. I don't think that any of this even remotely comes close to having to quote unquote cancel a person, but it's okay to call out a person for doing a bad thing, right? For doing a negative thing. And if they can't deal with that or use their privilege to get around it, that's also not okay in my opinion. But Docky says, I always seek to learn from the voices that get ignored in favor of yet another rich maths pro. Yeah, there's more stuff and more people on the other side that don't get heard because of stuff like that. And I think that it's on most of us to amplify that, because the other stuff does not need amplification. That doesn't mean I would never talk about it, right? Legends of Runeterra or Hearthstone Battlegrounds does not need amplification, but those things are amazing. Those are really good games. So I'm not going to not talk about it, right? But trust me, once IGF judging is over and I can openly speak about the games I'm playing, I will amplify those voices, because oh my God, are there a bunch of amazing games in the submissions to that competition. ShadowDX says, I'd love to play the version of Spelunky built using the Braid engine. Did I ever play that? See, I don't know, because I did play earlier builds. They were just never sent out. They were just like, it's GDC and we're all having a bonfire in Derek's backyard. And then some people would be in the kitchen playing the latest build of Spelunky. So I'm assuming that some of those builds were probably the Braid engine. It's just that honestly, they didn't look any different. It was probably more of a refactoring thing, right? That the back end was like, the code was so hard to navigate for them that at some point they just gave up and had to re-implement it. And, you know, if you've seen that talk, they'll always say that was the best idea they ever had. Anyway, in closing, I'm going to just say again, I have opinions about stuff. You'll hear me say them. If you push me on them, I'll probably bring them to the forefront. I just try to be a little bit more... open-minded. This is a necessity, I think, for living in the United States. I'll go into this at some other time. It gets deeply philosophical, right? It's the whole, there's a model of human development that I seem to think is not terrible, which is, while I do have an ideology, and my ideology is probably very strongly in the social democracy sense, because I grew up in it and it worked amazingly well for the most part. I understand that's not potentially the best and only way to go, right? Because if that were the case, then that means that we're done, right? So North America, and specifically the United States, is like a simulated annealing algorithm where the temperature is still extremely high, right? And things are bubbling around like crazy. And so to be amazingly dismissive and judgmental as a Central European coming in and saying, well, you guys just haven't figured this out yet, is not very useful, right? It's not very useful. And it's also I'm not saying that I sometimes had that in me when I just got here. I think my friend Charles Pratt called me a cultural imperialist at some point in a bar. But you know, you live in a place for long enough to realize that everything has its ups and downs, and there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? There are bigger dips than others for sure, and I think multiples of us live in those dips right now. And at least one of them came up in the chat early on. But who knows, right? Maybe in perfect land, again, those are like valleys to get through to get to the better other side. I can't not think that way, because anything else is not viable for me, right? Anything else is just a thing that I can't imagine that that's just it, right? There's no way, and because humans are too good. Like my belief in humanity is too high, right? I value humans too much to believe that that's not possible. Anyway, the Breakfast Spelunky show turned into, what does Andy think about the universe? So I'll stop there. I'll say thank you very much, very, very much for watching. This will go up later for people who want to watch it archived. I'll just say a couple things. There's a show next week. Might have something to do with this article. We'll see. You can subscribe on iTunes and everywhere else, or on Libsyn or whatnot. All the links are on the Twitch page or on our Libsyn page. I'm considering doing this Breakfast Spelunky thing more often. I'll probably still stick to the once a week formal thing that I announce and that I archive. The other ones, I just started realizing I play Spelunky almost every day, and I, for some dumb reason, stream it on my A. Nealon Twitch account without voice or anything. And it would be much more fun if I just did it here. And it was just like random. It was maybe at 4 p.m. one day and at 9 a.m. the next day. But I won't even announce those on the Twitter account. I'll just do them. People who are subscribed will see it, and then you can go watch it at any point. And if any of those turn into amazing runs, yeah, I'll probably archive them on YouTube. But otherwise, I'll just not do that. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for watching. I will. Docky says I read a book by Charles Pratt called Micromania. That's maybe a different Charles Pratt. I don't think Charles Pratt. This is Charles Pratt from NYU Charles Pratt. I don't know that Charles. Yeah, no, that's not the same Charles Pratt. Charles was a baby in the 1980s. Charles Pratt used to run a podcast called Another Castle that he recorded out of a bar called Ariyoshi in Manhattan that I was fortunate enough to be on. He's a faculty member at the NYU Game Center, and he used to write stuff on Game Design Advance, which I think is still some of the most amazing game studies writing. Game Design Advance is a blog that Frank Lance and Charles Pratt still pretty regularly is a stretch, every now and then post stuff to. Like I think Frank's How to Play Cinco Paus article is up there. But yeah, it's a different guy. Charles is cool though. Charles has dedicated his life at this point to being a community person in the Killer Queen scene, right? In the Killer Queen competitive scene that exists for a 5 versus 5 arcade, at least the 5v5 game, arcade only cabinet based game, which is the most unlikely of successes that I've heard of in indie games in a very long time. Docky says, thanks for the stream. Wonderful discussion. Thanks for the chat too. Thanks for the stream, Andy. Yep. I love doing this. Keep on coming, and I will continue having the conversation, because if there's one thing that I've also learned over the last decade of 11 years of being in the US, is that this is how I get smart, right? I used to be pretty good in college, and I realized that the only times I was really good in college was when I volunteered for mentoring others, right? So I only get smart by talking to other people. It's not a thing I can do in a vacuum. So thanks a lot for watching. I'm going to sign off for now, and I will talk to all of you hopefully next Friday at the latest. Take care. Cheers.